Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of the Journey to Happy podcast. I'm Olga, your host, and today we're going to be talking about the steps that I follow to solve a problem. So I'm titling this podcast Problem Solving 101. I hope you enjoy it as much as I am enjoying talking about this with you today. I'm going to tell you a little bit about where I've been. Last weekend, I hosted a once in a lifetime. I'm never doing this. I have never done it before. I'm never doing it again. And it was a retreat at my family's cottage. So it's the first time that somebody who's not in the family comes, like an event is happening at the cottage that is not family related. And I invited only people, past clients of mine who had taken Reset Your Mindset. And I wanted to host a retreat because I wanted to launch a new little module of Reset Your Mindset called The Practice. And the practice is how we just combine all the lessons and the teachings of Reset, and we think or create a map, a roadmap to begin to use them long term. So not only did you learn some great value, but the practice sort of like helps you come up with your own plan of how you're going to use what you've learned over the 12 weeks, moving past that. So I was excited that I had created that this summer, and I wanted to share it first with people who had taken the practice. I wanted to practice teaching it, and we had a blast. We all collectively said our jaws hurt so much after on Sunday because we had laughed so much. It was a good time. It's like all friends reuniting. And it was the first time that I met some of these ladies in person. So I said it's once in a lifetime because Olga's Way Coaching, one of our values is that we are a global coaching company. And that means we don't do off the fly, once in a lifetime, in-person meetings. And that's not to say that I don't have in-person meetings planned for the future. I absolutely do, but I want to have everybody who participates in our coaching from all over the world come join us. And that means that it couldn't just be scheduled and planned on the fly. Like I just had this idea. I had the idea of doing the practice for a while. I created it over the summer, but I had not intended to deliver this the first time in person. So that was on the fly, and why that's never going to happen again. But I want you to visualize this. You, a community of other women who are also excited about doing self-growth work, mindset work, and me, all of us in some warm place, easy to access, where we can just go for mindset meetings and then take breaks by the ocean or out on a hike in nature, somewhere nice and warm and beautiful. That's what I have in mind. So don't worry about it. Our time is coming where we can just plan this and the retreat will happen again. But like I said, it wouldn't be locally and on the fly. It will be a more planned thing. So I just came back from that, and that was Saturday and Sunday of last weekend. At the time that you're listening to this episode, it's been almost a month since I had done this retreat. Then I came back to start launching our last reset of the year that started September 26th. And so I've been go, 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 go. Plus, I've had to go to Toronto for a few doctor's appointments, and it just feels like it's been busy. Our home has been under renos again, and my son's birthday is coming up at the time of this recording. By the time you listen, it's been passed. All of those little things have been in my mind, and I have encountered, as you may imagine, one or two problems along the way. And so I have used my own coaching sessions with my coach to really focus my brain the best way possible on resolving the problems that have been presenting throughout my launch, inviting people to reset prior to that, throughout the construction of my house, the planning of the birthday, the weather, my health, all the things that have come up. And I have also been doing some peer coaching with other coaches. And I decided to use the following steps that I'm going to walk you through that have really helped me center my mind on problem solving, but also understanding why is this a problem and how to and what will be required of me and my thinking to resolve this problem. So this one is from my heart to yours. I hope you enjoy it. And here it goes. So first of all, how do you define a problem? And also, has it ever happened to you that in the moment that you think you're having a problem, you lose all neutrality? It's like you lose a bit of your reason. Everything seems problematic from the place of being in that problem. Like you lose neutrality, you lose that observation, that ability to observe from the outside in what's happening to you and the scenario. So I would like to say that the steps are important to take once you've gained back that sense of neutrality, where you're not judging yourself, where you're not longer in the misery river, wondering what's wrong with you, with the people around you, thinking and feeling like you've been a victim of life or the circumstances or the person. But when you're past that first ugly stage, and I would say maybe that's step number one, is to not begin to, unless it's an emergency. And at that point, you can just trust that your brain is going to be super wise and get you out of the problem immediately. It's so surprising to me when it's an emergency. You never have to stop and think too long. You just have the answers. You move so fast. And if you are like me, that you just get paralyzed, somebody moves fast around you. They just help you problem solve. So I think step number one, when you're experiencing a problem and you're not yet ready for the solution, and you know you're not ready for the solution when you're feeling really attached to that I'm still angry at life, at this person, at God. When you're still feeling that this is not fair, when you feel victimized in some way, when you're not taking any responsibility yet for the problem. That's step number one, is to sit there, to notice that you're judging, to notice that you're not neutral, to notice that you're still sitting in the energy that problem has brought within you. And whatever energy that is, we're not judging it. It is what it is. You're just having a moment of pity or deception, or you're feeling really angry, or you're feeling really depressed about it. Whatever that emotion was of the problem, you're just going to feel that, because you're not there ready. Like if you try to solve the problem from that energy, you're not going to succeed. You're going to feel really frustrated. So the first step is one of the steps that I teach inside the Reset Your Mindset formula, which is to just take a pause as soon as you realize you have this problem. You're going to take a pause and you're going to sit with feeling the emotion that this so-called problem is giving you. So physically feeling it in your body, in your chest. And I had a client recently said, I just feel it in my head. I have so many thoughts. It's not quite a feeling, but sure, if you feel it in your head, like your head is pounding, then just feel that. And when you notice that energy has shifted a bit, and how do you know the energy has shifted? I mean, you might feel a little sleepy or indifferent to the whole problem, or you might just be like, whatever, I've accepted it. Like you feel ready now to problem solve. You feel now curious to understand what happened and how do we not do that again? Or what happened? How did we get here? What steps were missed? And how do we move past that? If not now, to solve this problem now. If it's a problem that can be solved now, then you get into implementing. And if it's something that it happened, it was done, mistake made, problem created, the solution might just be working on future similar scenarios, then it's still very important that you do this sort of reflection. So as I was having these problems popping up, I was having the emotion, trust me. But at the same time, and that's just because I've been practicing mindfulness for a very long time, I'm so self-aware. I have developed such a strong sense of self-observation. I just observe myself, whether I want it or not. It doesn't get turned off anymore. So my first step to problem solving is to evaluate my theory of the problem. Like, how did we get to the problem? What caused the problem? Why am I here to begin with? What were all the elements that were present at the time of the problem? What may have led to this problem? And I'm very observing of whether or not I'm pointing fingers. And even if I am pointing fingers, I will write this down. So, for example, if I thought my assistant hadn't done a step that was needed for the invitations to reset, I'll be writing that. That was one of the problems. But I would also look at before that problem. How come my assistant didn't send the invitations? This didn't happen, by the way. Sam, this didn't happen. Sam, if you're listening. But I'm just making this up. So if my assistant hadn't sent an invitation to my clients to come to reset, I'll be asking myself, how come? How come that didn't happen? And then I would look at her process, but I would also look at my process. Where was that? Where did I have a doing in this? Do I have, as her manager, did I have a protocol that said check-in to make sure this was done? Yes or no? And so I become very, very observant, but also aware. So while I was feeling the emotions of perhaps disappointment was very present for me when some of the problems that I experienced over the last 2 months showed up, or even the last 2 weeks, I will feel that disappointment and I will feel it and just be like down for an hour or two, just really feel that feeling. I would almost feel my eyelids be heavy, just feeling like tired. And at the same time, I will grab pen and paper. I open a Google document in my computer, and I started typing observations of things that I thought, and this could have led to the problem, and this could have led to the problem. If I was doing this to solve a problem with my husband, I will be doing the same steps. Okay, guys. So if I'm giving you the example of a very easy example, and give you an example of something that is really easy to just made up in my head quickly to walk you through the steps. And I'll probably change scenarios every step. But the first one is that openness to evaluate what went wrong, what didn't work. And it is important that you sort of come up with your own theory as to why that didn't work. How did we get to that problem? How do you answer to that? Like if this was a scientific paper, the question to be answering through your research would have been, what led to this problem? What were all the factors you included? And so that will be step number 1. And if you're thinking like this is going to take a long time, I promise you it doesn't take as much. And if it solves the problem, why not? And if not only solves the problem, but brings crazy awareness to your own doings, and that on its own could just help you prevent other problems in the future, like you're winning. Okay, so that's step number 1. Sorry, step number 2. Step number 1 is to notice that you have a problem and that problem has given you some energy, some feelings, and is creating a type of energy in your body. And then you're going to move to step number 2, where you're evaluating what caused the problem. Step number 3 will be to write all of your thought errors that contributed to the problem. What do I mean by thought errors? This is something that I go in depth inside Reset Your Mindset as well. But and it would take me a whole episode to teach them. But thought errors, for the purpose of this exercise, for you guys listening, I just want you to write down all the thoughts that you think were not helpful. All the thoughts that you had before the problem happened that you think might not have helped, or that may have contributed to the problem happening. All the thoughts you've had during the problem and after the problem. In other words, just open your mind and notice all of your thought errors, all of the thoughts that are not helpful, that didn't help you. It's pretty simple journaling. Step number 4, you're going to write out new thoughts of all of your ideas that could counter the thoughts that were not helpful. And be careful here to not go, if I had a negative thought, I'll have to have an exact one, but positive. It's not negatives and positives, but if thinking that, I just did this coaching with a client this morning, for example, and she was wondering why all her dating experiences end in the guy just ghosting her. And so when we broke down step by step, what are her behaviors and what are her thoughts every stage of dating, from the moment they reach out to her on the app, to the moment they go on a first date, to the moment they go on a third date, to the moment that she starts having feelings for them, to the moment that they ghost her. Like we walk through all these steps. And what we notice is that she has thoughts. So if she hasn't met the guy today, like today, she carries thoughts about the next guy that she hasn't met. And her thoughts are, I'm not going to be able to trust him because all these guys have ghosted me. So he's going to somehow pay what other guys have done. She's also thinking he's also going to ghost me. It's just a matter of time. And I love this one. One of her thoughts that sounded like a great thought to have, but it's just so damaging to her connecting. I'm just too trusting, too nice, too giving. So she's had all these thoughts that have not been helpful. So as in step number 3, we're writing all of our thought errors, thoughts that may have contributed to this guy ghosting her or these men ghosting her. But then when we're on step number 4, we're going to have new thoughts that support what we actually want. And that counters the thoughts that we were having before, during, and after the problem that were not helpful. So if you cannot look at your thoughts and say, this was a very helpful thought, you absolutely then have to think to yourself as to how am I going to change that? What will be a better belief? So for my client, we came up with on step number 4, because we were problem solving for her dating experience. We were problem solving. And one of the thoughts that she came up with was, I can be trusting in relationships. I can trust that the right relationship is going to come to me. I don't need to chase it. And so you don't need to have a whole long list of new thoughts that support what you want. 1 or 2 will do. However, when you're looking at all of your thoughts that were not helpful, don't just give yourself 1 or 2. Really go to town exploring all that is in your brain. Okay. Step number 5, write out a solution. Rather than calling your friend and your mom and tell them all about the problem before you even get there, ask the most brilliant coach you have ever met, the best friend you will ever have, the woman who knows everything you've lived, everything you've experienced, yourself. Or the man, if you're a man listening to the podcast. And write out your own thought out solution based on your own thoughts, based on your experience, based on who you are and what you understand now that caused the problem. Write out your new solution. So for my client, I asked her to write down a solution. What are you going to do from now on? And she would like skip step 5 and 5 to 8 of what I currently do when we're in this dating pathway, which were, I think, the steps where she's like anxiously texting if they don't get back to her after a short while, thinking the worst thoughts, etc., etc. So she was coming up with her own solutions. Step number 6, scale from 1 to 10. How deeply do you believe that is the best solution? Step number 7, if it's not a 10, what will make it a 10? And lastly, what will be the actions that you will have to take from this moment when the problem has passed until you face a similar problem like this one, so that you can address it with the new solution that you just came up with. That is your solving a problem one-on-one, 101 formula. So let's do it with you. You now have, I know you guys love it when I give you tools that are 1 to 10, A to Z. This is it. You now have your own solution. So my friend, grab pen and paper, pause me, replay me. This is one of those episodes you want to definitely save. Hopefully one you want to share with others. You follow these steps, eight steps, because I added one, the one of feeling. Remember that you have to start from a place of neutrality, not longer in the heat of the moment. And that on its own is just such a coaching moment when you can manage your emotions, feel them, and then just feel like, okay, now I'm ready. You know, what most of you do is that you run into the problem, you have those emotions, you problem solve in the moment, but you never, with a cold mind, like a cool head, stop and reflect and write out a solution and curiously understand what happened. Most of us are perfectly happy thinking the problem happened because so-and-so was late, and had they not been late, I would have never lost my mind and my patience, and the problem wouldn't have happened, and I would have been okay. And we serve nobody when we just limit our problem solving to just blaming, complaining, pointing, or assuming all responsibility. It was all my fault, I'm so sorry, without having done a proper breakdown of what caused the problem. And most importantly, how do I come up with a new solution moving forward? You can use your brain in any way you want it. You can use your brain to minimize your experience, to undervalue yourself, to victimize yourself, to blame, to complain. And that gives you a set of feelings and emotions and a life experience. Or you can use your brain to problem solve, to push your limits of thinking, of possibility, to take full responsibility for what belongs to you, to make new choices, to commit to them, to sell yourself on why that's a good idea. And the experiences, the side effects, everything else will just be different. So you get to choose in which way you want to stretch your brain. Both equal work, both give you results. You just got to choose what results you want. If you like this type of work, I want to invite you to work with me. I am teaching a Detox the Mind bootcamp, the 5-day bootcamp, to stop being so self-critical and starting to understand the steps to become more confident. That starts on November 7th. It's a full week. And the end of November, you're going to have an opportunity to enroll early into Reset Your Mindset that starts in February of next year, 2023. But the sign up will be, early enrollment will be in November. And what's exciting about this early enrollment is that you're going to have access to the videos and the content almost 3 months before we start the coaching. So it's like you have access to all the content except for the coaching calls for a total of 6 months. That's never happened before. Doesn't change the price. All it means is that you sign up early in November, but you start getting coaching in February. Pretty amazing. All right, head over to the show notes and sign up. See you soon.